Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on timber and fire safety. My name's Dave Hopkins. I'm the Chief Exec of Timber Development UK, and we are running this webinar today to showcase our new resource, a new website that has been developed collaboratively across several partners, but predominantly by Swedish Wood, one of the largest provider of timber to the UK, Timber Development UK ourselves, and the Structural Timber Association. And it's been very much a partnership between all of our different trade associations in association with a group of fire experts, fire engineers and fire designers to try and provide a live document, if you like, a live book on timber and fire safety. For all construction professionals. We wanted to make it open, we wanted to make it free for everyone involved in designing timber structures with fire safety in mind. I'm going to say very little. I'm going to hand over to our key presenter, Dr. Julie Bregulla, who has been responsible for curating the information in this on this resource. What I do want to say at the start, Julie is going to talk for about sort of 40 minutes or so to run through some slides about what it was that we were trying to develop, how it works, and show some examples of that website in progress. Then we're going to open up for questions and take questions at the end. What I'd like you to do, if you do have questions as they come up, could you use the Q&A function, which somebody has done already, asking when is this going to be available as a video? It'll be some point next week. And use that Q&A function, and then at the end of Julie's presentation, I will read out those questions and we can discuss them and answer them. So please do type them in as they come to you. Don't save them all for the end, because we won't notice that you've done them. So with that, thank you very much, and I will hand over now to Julie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave, and welcome all. It's a real pleasure being with you today, and I'm really delighted to give a bit of an introduction to the work we've done on this website. So I'll quickly share my screen, and then hopefully everybody can see. Dave and Liam, if you could let me know that you can see it, that would be superb.
Yeah, that's
great.
all good.
Super. Thank you so much. So yes, an introduction today. It is a huge topic, as we all know, and you know how important it is. You're here, so we're really keen to sort of just introduce it as a start of our conversation. Just a short introduction to me. I'm Julie Bregulla. I was previously director of BRE's Fire and Building Technology Group, and have since 2021 taken up a leadership position at the Engineering and Design Institute in London. I started as a really traditional civil structural engineer, and then specifically around lightweight construction, though, early on, and then really specialized in construction regulation and supporting standards. And so this is really where my link to the fire world has come from. Do a lot of strategic advisory stuff, and that includes the work I did here for Swedish Wood, and so really edited and curated the knowledge hub here that we're going to look at today. I know that we will sort of pass, when we look at the website, I'll show you some of the contributors as well, to whom we're extremely grateful for their contributions throughout. So I normally put up this slide because I will not be as concise and as eloquent as these illustrators that sort of manage to sort of tell the most complex stories in under 5 seconds. It's a great book, and fire safety is a huge topic, a hugely important topic, and of course always has been, and sort of in our psyche and in the way that we think about it even more in recent years. And I think it is so difficult a topic, and so complex a topic, because it does in its decision making really have many interfaces and facets across the sort of decision-making chain. So really from, the stakeholders themselves that are involved in the process, to the safe assets we're trying to generate, the products and processes that we use to do so, and us, the professionals, you know, trying to sort of navigate all of those interfaces through the lifetime of a project from its inception. And so that sort of takes a lot of attention, as we all know. And so really, when we came to develop the website, we were really keen to provide a comprehensive, credible, easy to use, and really importantly, I think, an independently verified portal for some of this information. And we'll talk a bit about more why that is so important. So whilst these great funders have supported the work, they have really been letting the work happen to really come to this easy to use and independently verified site for the good of the industry and for us to work on together into the future. Just to sort of say, it's been written with the UK primarily in mind, although you will see best practice and approaches from across Europe represented. But if we do mention regulation, or we do talk about specific aspects of an implementation rule, then that would be with the UK in mind. But we were really keen to bring examples and practices from across Europe to this site for reference and for information. So this is sort of a short gallop really around, you know, how did we go about thinking what should be in there and who needs what, right? And so we've taken some assumptions on that, which might be right or not right, that might be appropriate or not quite right. So really, you know, I will keep mentioning feedback throughout this session because it is hugely important. It's a live site. It has provisions for updating in place. So really, it's all about making sure that the information evolves, but also that it can develop to be the best support, you know, that you can get. So really, we were trying to sort of construction professionals, as Dave has already mentioned, and we wanted to sort of provide information where, you know, we might have a sort of a scale of various scales of timber experience, you know, and we might have small projects, all out projects, you know, so really, and different materials that are involved in doing that. So that's really what it's aiming to do. And so by doing that, we have tried to organize the information in sort of mainly 3 layers. We wanted to introduce the principle, which is often material agnostic, so it is completely relevant across all materials and all construction forms. Then in the second layer, really give examples of timber application specifics and further detail on things that has to be considered as a consequence of choosing that material. And then really as a third layer, background, further reading, more depth. So things that, you know, when you're really into the subject and you do a lot of the work, you might find interesting to read additional references or things that have happened in this space. Again, I will say it's a live site. It's an evolving topic in some areas. Some are sort of more steady state, some are more evolving. And so really what this site will be is able to sort of update the references, update the research that is happening and come back into those sections that we've organized the website around, which I'll explain next. So really, this is what it looks like. And what we were trying to do is to really have some introductory basic principles in this about fire safety section at the top. And we'll do a bit of a run through the website on one particular example to just show that in action. But really trying to sort of explain, remember, it's across a range, and some of you are experts in this field. And so, you know, we'll know how timber is used in construction. You might have specific projects, but not all of us might do the same amount of work. And we'd like really people to use the website also to sort of think about, well, I want to use timber, how might I go about that? And then really sort of explaining the basis on which decisions are being made and assessments are based on. And then we have 2 main blocks of the site. The first is about designing for fire safety. And so in there, we've got really everything from load-bearing assemblies to reaction to fire, external walls and surfaces. So, you know, the designing part of structures themselves. And then on the other side of that, it's all about sort of the managing of the construction fire safety, be that during construction, be it during, before and during design, or be it, you know, the sort of active protection measures that we take from firefighting to active fire protection measures, cavity barriers, so on and so forth, that actually are going on, how we manage the performance of the building through time, but also with those measures in place. I will not spend a lot of time on this, but of course, it is hugely important. We have about 500 fires a day across England every day. And so really, 40% of all fires are in dwellings. So it's just really to show that the application of this product, is sort of really wrapped up in we know that it happens, fires happen, and we assume that it happens once in the lifetime of the structure. And the most common ignition is a cooking appliance. That's the common source, most common source of ignition, and sort of again, most, of course, in dwelling construction of various sizes. I sort of pulled out, this is from the statistics that, of course, are sort of taken every year in the UK, very helpfully, material agnostic, as you know, but I thought it was quite interesting to sort of show the average area of damage that we get in buildings. So in dwellings, generally 14.2%, in other buildings, up to 24.1%. But also interesting, from these statistics, we find 1/3 of dwelling fires have no fire damage. Nearly 1/3, it stays with the item ignited or in the room of ignition. And then really in 4% of all cases at the moment, when we look at the statistics, do we see large fires? And I've given you a bit of a list of what that includes. So limited to floor of origin, but wider, 2 floors, affecting more than 2 floors and so forth. So really, so really showing that the importance of managing a fire once it happens, as much as making sure it works. I would just wanted to point out to you a really interesting piece of information, sort of a recent publication from 2021, where really we've, there's been a look specifically to timber structures, how fires spread in timber structures. And this is sort of the overview show here, so you can see, how often fires move through cavities, how often they sort of spread through attics or via penetrations, and how often we get fires spread actually coming from the external to the internal of the building. So again, one of those sources referenced in that, but sort of linking to making it a bit more specific about timber as an example. And that really is sort of how we do fire safety. More generally, you will know all of this, but really from life safety to business protection, from the strategy we take to making sure that the fire is contained and allows life safety goals to be achieved, to the systems that we use, from the building element, a constructional issue, to then really having what is called, active ways of managing a fire detection, as well as limiting the growth of the fire through sprinklers. And then all of those components that come to doing this, right? So that's sort of everything that goes in the box between from alarm sounders to sprinkler heads to the building products themselves. What's really absolutely identical for all of the regulations across the world, it's sort of what we're aiming at when we do that. So the safety of the occupants and the rescue teams are enshrined in every single regulation across the world when it comes to fire safety. And then we have various scales of loss prevention, from the structure of the building to the content of the building, to going for an uninterrupted operation of a building, for example, and sort of course, also when it comes to the public image of a building. And then also for the environmental protection, so release of hazardous substances, of course, post-fire and during the rescue operations. And interestingly, across Europe, this is really the objectives we're always designing for. And we have both. We have prescriptive and performance-based codes to do this. You will get these sort of 5 principles enshrined throughout, which is why, the website is a really helpful way of seeing these big similarities coming through, but also some of the management measures and the design measures that we take to be enshrined in the same way. So about making sure people can evacuate safely, safety and rescue teams are safe when they fight the fire. We have load-bearing structures which resist the fire for required minimum durations. Again, something across the world in fire safety regulations enshrined. We always have provisions around generating, limiting generation spread of fire and smoke throughout the building. And we always have provisions that ensure that the fire does not spread or is limited in its spread to neighboring buildings. And as such, really, the objectives and the management strategies take forms which look something like this. And again, this is taken directly from the website, but forms a little bit of a framework to think about some of those, how the website is structured, but also how to read some of the information and how it's been organized to help you find this. So really from around preventing fire ignition, we don't spend that much time on that, but we do spend time on managing the fire impact, the fire itself, and managing exposed material once the fire is in full swing. So this gives you again the overview to sort of show you that. So again, what are we aiming for in those sort of categories of performance? And then how do we manage that? And what information do we have available to sort of think about that when we come to design with this material? We also give a little bit of a guidance on when to think about some of those interventions, so, when do you consult through the REBA stages? When do you sort of collaborate around aligning internal layouts around materials? And when do you talk about technical design and the details and who should be involved with whom to do that? So hopefully really helping to sort of unify some of those collaborative approaches and also the terminology and use to do so together. Really to say, we sort of cover all construction types here in timber. So from heavy timber construction to lightweight composite construction like timber frame, both are covered and sort of in the variations. So you'll see specific sections on this in that. Again, I will not read out the specifics. I'm sure many of you will know this, but really from, the initial burning rate to steady state rate burning. We talk, of course, about what must be considered when you think about designing with CLT, and then really spending time also on lightweight composite timber construction, sacrificial lining protections, prescriptive versus encapsulation, all these sort of topics that form the day-to-day when thinking about timber solutions in construction. And with it comes also real explanation about some of the terminology that we use around compartment fire dynamics, for example, how this might change, what might become a specific consideration to have depending on the material you're choosing. Again, explanations for all of this included. We've included this as well to sort of guide a little bit around, like depending on what sort of type of structure I'm thinking about, what are my most common design approaches likely? Again, this is not a solution as such, but it's to guide as you use the website, when I have a low rise, property protection, unlikely requirement, and a firefighting strategy, including assisted escape, is unlikely. What sort of design approach will be most likely for me? And you'll see then a path for that around prescriptive design rules, and then really also explaining at what time the predominant design approach might go to performance-based design in the more complex buildings, so that you can just get a bit of a sense about, well, I'm doing this, so what's most likely to be required for me? And then really, I'm sort of just looking at time, but we want to make sure we get enough time for questions as well. I wanted to maybe just spend a bit of time on detailing and execution as one example. So there's the whole section on the website dedicated to that. And really, we're covering things like, where do we get some of the spread characteristics? How do we interact between structural fire design? How do we get effective work done there? What about cavity barriers? What is good detailing? How do I go about thinking about what products are available to me? And in a minute, we'll go and look at that specific part of the website. So I can show you how this will present on the website itself. Before we go to questions. So if I quickly try again, David and Liam, if you could tell me that I'm definitely showing the right thing. Can everybody see the website?
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
up. That's good.
Perfect. David, I'm very happy to take a short break if there are, just to see whether there are any sort of pressing questions coming up at the moment before we go and have a look at the website.
There's very few questions coming up at the moment. I think they'll probably be going through as you go through the website.
Perfect. Great. So this is what it looks like. So just to give you an example, so really, usual layout there. I think what I wanted to maybe point out to you guys is that, so there is sort of, you have various ways of accessing this information, either be it from the top toggles like this, which has all of the bits in it, or you go to the picture I've shown before, which is sort of the site map, where you see it all presented pictorially, and you can then go and get to a specific part of the site with direct links here. So here you then find, if I just go, I wanted to quickly spend just a bit of time to show you all of the people that have contributed to this. Very much an approach to bring together best practice from across the UK and Europe, mainly Sweden, and all of the various experts, and then also a UK reference group, which I'm showing you here, that has been amazing to sort of review, look at, the application in the UK context, and giving us good guidance about what would be useful things to make sure we mention. Again, I will say feedback is hugely important, and I will show you this here at the bottom of the page. Oops, sorry, I'm just trying to find it. You will be able to give us feedback about things that would be useful to have, something you've noticed. We will be regularly reviewing this feedback and seeing how we can incorporate that best. So really then, if we, I like to go to the homepage is the way to sort of go to the site map. And I wanted to maybe show you one particular part of the site specifically, so I can show you some of those functionalities I've been talking about. So here, this is in the managing fire safety part of the site. And you can see here the various levels that we've been talking about. So if you just want a very quick introduction, just I want to get my head around what is meant by that, you sort of start at the top, but you can then also see that we have sort of tried to think about, well, is this sort of a more further reading type bit of information, or is this something, depending on your competence level, you might want to go a bit deeper because some of the initial bits already. But again, trying to give a bit of guidance about when something becomes more specialist and deeper. And I think sort of as a guide, when you read something, you sort of think, I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to mean. Then that's sort of a good sign to sort of think, this might be a supply chain interaction that needs to happen to discuss, trying to sort of find out a bit more about the information available. What does that mean in this context specifically? So really trying, we might not get these right all the time. So, we've made some assumptions as to, but it's supposed to sort of help a little bit with navigating what is, of course, extremely dense and interconnected material all the time. So if I just scroll down, so here, you see some of the slides I've presented, but again, you will see then cross-linking, so you can actually go to the actual website where this statistic came from and just say, well, I wonder what else is there, or how does this link, or what is meant by that. So that really is supposed to be helping out and sort of really giving you latest access. Again, since it's a live website, the idea would be that we then, of course, update, so we've got quite a few big things happening with the introduction of the Building Safety Act, with the Brexit modalities continuing to finalize. And so really now we're in a place where we really want to make sure the website, you can keep returning to the website to sort of get the latest status on something. And this is a very good example. The statistics get updated every year. So, so really, this is sort of a typical example. And then we would have then included a bit more detail about the typical damage patterns, the information that you get to see, and if you're interested, where you might find a bit more of information in more depth. But actually, you don't need to assimilate sort of previous points, right? So that's sort of the idea behind trying to bit this. Same here, I've sort of mentioned this to you around this very specific timber-specific publication. Again, a short summary, so that if you want to read it in detail, absolutely, but you sort of get sort of the main analysis of, the main findings in here, a bit of an overview, and then really get to the full study via a cross-link. What I think is also quite helpful, because of the complexity of the subject, which just is what it is, is that it sort of gets you to cross-link to other parts of the site. So you could then say, listen, to do this well, it links to constructional measures which are actually covered in other bits. So you can then click here and get directly into a specific part of the site where you can read out from the specifics that relate to that, but you don't have to. So, it's not tried sort of, but it gives a bit of guidance as to how to sort of navigate this depending on what you want to find out. Again, we have related this or taken this from the latest research in this space. When other things come up, we will update the links as best as we can and as quickly as we can. So this is just an example, really good piece of work, 2022, really recent, and really showing some of the main spreads that we get, and then focusing specifically on concealed spaces. And again, a technical level here, trying to explain why is it important that we manage this. So you get the principle, again, agnostic at this point, nothing to do with timber specifically. A link to the relevant building regulations across England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and then also some sort of additional guidance that comes from the local government association, for example, or the National Fire Chiefs Council, that might also be relevant in this specific aspect of that. And then really just a little bit of an extract to sort of show in the UK building regs, this is what it would look like. And these are the relevant pieces that relate to this specific performance expectation and requirement here. And again, a cross link here to go to the latest version. We have had an unprecedented just pace of change in the regulations. So again, we have always opted to try and link to the latest page to really remind everybody to go to the latest version of something, to make sure that the latest piece of information, latest state of the art is accessed, so that actually the site doesn't come out of date, or misses a particular. So we have tried to really make those links active, so you can always go back to the base text, and that's encouraged. And then really, again, trying to bring out key information around where would you find it, what would be those fire stops that we're looking for, overview drawings. This one is accessed via a particular publication, but of course the base text comes from approved document B, but really trying to pictorially show this, and then a little bit of a technical level one around, this is how fire stops are tested, for example, right? Any sort of background information, here again, sort of a cross link to work done a bit longer ago in 2013 around performance of cavity barriers, external walls with combustible materials, for example, just so that there is good backup reading available on some of those subjects where there's work ongoing or has gone on and has formed the basis for some of the guidance that is available at the moment. Here, again, a bit of information for everybody about how to select products, how it might link with some of the decision-making you're making in your structures. Again, a link here to information management in timber buildings, so a cross-link to a different part of the site to just remind and highlight to everybody, actually, I'm choosing very specific products for a very specific safety goal. This is something that is key information, it's golden thread information. And so really to remind and to help in making sure that relevant information is included in every sort of building that you guys are doing in whatever application it might come. So that's really just to give you an example there. And then a bit of an extract from a publication from one of the founders. Again, we're sort of trying to cross-link to existing information and information that is being developed in the future on some available products and how you would think about them, where they get installed, and then also a cross-link to the actual publication. So you can see the full piece of text in context. And read up on that as you wish. So for all of the website, and with great thanks to all of the funding partners, you might have to sign up for the information, right? So you might have to give your details, but the information that is cross-linked here is free to download and to look at as part of the site. And then really some cross-linking back to where you might go for third-party certified, CE marked and tested to relevant standard products that can help you in that. what it means, what's different, so that when you go and get and see product information and you go and get to choose products, you get a little bit of a sense of, what sort of stuff should I be looking for? What is this sort of information that I'm going for, that I would like to see? And what discussions might I have to have with my supply chain partners to understand whether I've got what I need for the applications I'm going for. You will see throughout the website, we're always saying, listen, this is based on a test. These are the conditions of the test. So be sure, we should remind us wherever we can to make sure that actually, if something is slightly different, there is an alert there for the users to say, I must discuss this. I must make sure that what I'm choosing is relevant for the application I have in mind, depending on how much you know about the subject. And then again, on the installation side, general information available across all materials. So some really good cross linking here to the Association of Specialist Fire Protection, for example, and then some specific consideration with cross links to third-party information on what is specific considerations for timber construction, and some best practice guidance to go in and how it interlinks on this specific subject. So here again, we've sort of pointed out a couple of specifics on modular construction, and we're spending a bit of time explaining cavities and facades, and again cross-linking to another part of the site, here specifically the reaction to fire performance of external surfaces bit, but also some detailing and principle explanations in other guidelines, like for example the Global Design Guideline, which just been published in 2022. So I mean, this is sort of giving you a little bit of an overview on one specific element of the site. There are others, and they are built in similar ways, of course, with different information in. And then again, hopefully that will just give you a little bit of a flavor. And I'm happy to sort of stop sharing at this point. I'm just going to quickly unclick a little bit the bibliography just to sort of see what further reading might be. But if I stop sharing my slides, and then I think we should see each other and go through questions.
Thank you very much, Julie. That was fantastic. A good whistle-stop tour through the content there. I'm going to pick out. We've got a handful of questions.
Great.
From people. There's about 91 people in the meeting, so there's only a few questions. Some of them come into similar areas. Yeah. Particularly about the use of specific tested details around products and things. So Kieran Thompson asks that, said, for example, do we have any tested details in a more standard construction? There's a product is being tested within a British gypsum wall, blah blah blah, and he has access to that tested detail. Are we going to publish those sorts of things? And if not, why not?
Yeah, good question. So brilliant. I think it's a very good question. And I think it sort of shows a little bit the range that we have in this decision-making around fire safety, right? So from the very specific application in a specific project with a specific set of details, materials, fire safety objectives, type of application in the building. I think this website is sort of more on the other side of that spectrum and really trying to explain, setting the scene as to all of the decisions that have been made that lead to this specific detail being relevant or not relevant in this particular occasion, and sort of trying to sort of also really make sure that we are clear on, what is my objective when I choose this, right? So that we are a bit at the front end of some of this to actually clarify the basis on which we're making those decisions. What it's not, I think is important to say, what it is not is a cookbook, if you see what I mean. So you can say, listen, I've got this particular problem with this particular application, and I want to use these materials. Can you give me a detail to show me how to do that? There are other publications out there. We're cross-referencing where appropriate to lead people to that. But I think it's really important to say that this is not a how-to book. It's more a why-to book. A why-to resource to sort of do that. Having said that, again, I would say this, and I mean this, this is a living site, And so all feedback is welcome. And that is important to sort of hear where we're at. But of course, with the partners involved, there's also other ways in sort of trying to understand what might be required by the industry more generally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's worth just repeating over and over. This is about the principles of design rather than specific answers. So it is aimed for people to do their own designs. Similarly, then some of the other questions are along similar lines, actually, about specific information. Can you use the website to choose the build-up of walls or floors to achieve particular fire ratings? No. You've got to design them yourself.
Yeah, that's right. And I do think I know as much of the work that has gone on before this, right? So in one sense, this is not a replicate of that at all. It's about really trying to sort of go one step before. I think what would make me what I think would be amazing is to sort of make those linkages stronger, so that competence-wise, we can really be confident to sort of say, I'm choosing this, I'm having a very specific detail, a very specific build-up, and linking this to the objectives in which they were designed in the first place. And I think if we can make that sort of bridge a bit stronger with this site, then I think that would be a great success.
Okay. I'm just going to pick up on a couple of, and please, if anybody has other questions while we're talking, please do type them into the Q&A box as quickly as possible. I'm just going to, there's one from Steph Asher on a slightly different, although related subject. We're an architect's practice keen to create timber structures and getting difficulties getting insurance with timber due to fire risk. Is there any help or information from Timber Development UK on this? Not specifically within this website. What we can say is that we work very closely with Built by Nature, which is publishing a mass timber insurance playbook, and that will be coming out very soon. And they are running webinars and a whole range of other communications around that. And we will promote that to our own members through our website and through our emails and so on, just to make sure that everybody else is up to speed with it all, and we've got that.
And just to say, David, I mean, again, I've seen sort of just one thing about, well, why is this reference not there, and so on and so forth. Absolutely. There might be things we've overlooked. There might be things which are about to land. There might be changes. So again, we are grateful for all of those, so that we can link them and give people as much cross-referencing and putting it into context as we can. So that is part and parcel as to why the organizations have committed to keep this site live, right? So that we can do this exact stuff.
So we've committed now to make sure that it can be curated on an ongoing basis, and that it will be updated with any new information as it comes live. So things like the insurance playbook. There's another question here about the mass insurance playbook, and we will be linking to that as that comes through. We will be starting, for example, led by Timber Development UK, but also working with members of STA and others, a new timber frame construction manual, which will link back to this site and make sure that the guidance is cross-referenced between the publication that comes out and the information that is available on this website as well. So we do want to make sure that this is a hub for people looking for information on these subjects, and that it will link out to other sites as well.
And I think I would also say is what it's not trying to do is to replicate what exists elsewhere, right? So you will have seen, we will have tried to build a reference at the appropriate time, so that this interconnectivity between some of the information out there and the principles, so this journey between, this is sort of the agnostic expectation and requirement for safety, and this is sort of information out there cross-linked. So, to sort of just create a little bit of a landscape or a puzzle where some of these things can sort of just be shown in context. So that's really amazing, I think, in the sense that, I think it does help a little bit to sort of say, well, but I've got this book over here and I've got this sort of, robust detail coming out of this. So hopefully it will sort of start hanging things together a little bit so that one can judge, this is exactly what I'm doing, or actually this is a variation on a theme, but this is the principle. So I need to sort of, I can see where I find myself on this journey of decision making as a consequence of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think most of the other questions are on very similar lines.
Yeah.
Are there any hopes to collaborate with Cross UK?
Thank you for this question. I am not sure who actually issued it. I am delighted. Very, very good. I am delighted to hear that. Yes, I think, again, this sort of learning, near-miss reporting, I know all of the three organizations are extremely keen to build stronger links on this. So yes, the answer is, and absolutely, that would be amazing. We need to find out. I mean, that actually makes me think of a thing I would like to say. There are a couple of bits in development as well around maintenance, resilience through life, for example, that we would like to sort of really keep a watching brief on, and present some of the best practice in a slightly different way to what you've seen, which is quite discursive at the moment, but maybe frequently asked questions, latest timber relevant observations around confidential reporting, all this sort of interactive stuff, which is, I hope you guys will be returning to the site again and again because of exactly those active links that we're trying to build as part of it, as the sector moves together and learns together.
And as people do come back to the site, you can leave feedback at the website, and you can email in, or you can email us at TDUK, and there's an info@timberdevelopment.uk that you can just feedback and say, look, we want to see this, or we want to see that. Can you get information on this? Can you get information on that? We will discuss it and we will get back to you.
Yeah, it's not a Q&A. I would just say, David, it is not a, it's not live, as in, I've got this particular problem, can you answer it for me? So you will get an email back saying, so we will have a regular way of reviewing it. So, it's not manned, if you see what I mean, by somebody being able to ask active questions. So just to sort of bear that in mind. But we would love to, we are pooling everything that you're putting in and then having a regular review to be able to update information as we go through that. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to get those. Gareth Davis has just come in with a last, it looks like possibly the last question, unless anybody can get one in whilst I'm reading it out. It says, what are your views on UKCA/Redbook Live, as in the UK-based certifier products, versus products which have certification in their respective EU country of manufacture, which holds certification by a respected body in their country?
Very good question. Very good question. Yep. Yeah, very, very good question. And actually, again, I've just shown one example, right? So I've just, what you've seen there, there's other parts in the website where you get cross links, you get, explaining what European technical approval is, what a harmonized product standard is, all of that sort of stuff, which I think links to this particular question. So thank you for that question. The UKCA mark has got its specific rules. We have got parts in the website where we're explaining, what is the harmonized standard, what is the UKCA mark, and how does it interface. And of course, as all of you will know, the Building Safety Act and the regulator might well bring in other provisions in addition. So whilst it's a big subject, so I will not attempt to answer it. But the main bit is, at the moment, most of the harmonized standards are transferred one-to-one into the UK system under the UKCA mark. But there is a requirement to have a matching back-to-back certification process happening through that. But again, this is moving, and the coexistence periods and all of that are sort of shifting as well. But again, useful to sort of see how much detail people would like to have the website help them with on that, or that'd be really helpful to sort of have a look what's there and what would be helpful to have in addition. There's lots going on.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. We have no more questions, so thank you very much, Julie, for giving a good run through the contents of the website. What I would ask is for everybody on the webinar to have a good look through. Have a look. There is on the homepage a sort of a description of how we would like you to progress through the website, really according to the flowchart that Julie put up during her slides. And please do leave feedback either at the website or emailing us directly, and we will attempt to get back to you, with answers or with updates, or just by saying that's a very good idea. We'll take it on board, and we'll come back to you in due course. But in the meantime, thank you very much for participating today and taking time out of your Friday lunchtime. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Julie, and best of luck with using everything for your designs. Thank you.
Thank you.